Dear colleagues, it's a great honor for me to attend the 20th Annual Congress of IIA Turkey. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of the members of the IIA Turkey team for their agility to organize this year's event, despite so many significant difficulties coming from the Covid-19. Today, we will be talking about Agile Audit and its benefits to handle the Covid-19 crisis with one of my close friends, Mr. Julio Yepes. Julio had 7 years experience as an advisor at Arthur Andersen. After that, he at the other roles such as global operations, corporate assurance, and corporate transformation projects. Currently, he is leading the Agile transformation of BBVA Audit Department. Julio, welcome and thank you very much for being here with us today.
Okay, thank you very much, Osman and Salim, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. Thank you so much.
Well, Julio, I would like to start our conversation by asking a question to you. You know, sometimes I come across organizations that they think they are agile. This crisis has given us the opportunity to test many organizations who believes that they are agile, whether they are actually agile or not. For instance, before the pandemic, some organizations had the idea that they were very flexible and they could adapt to change very quickly. For this reason, I'd like to ask you first, what it means to being agile. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences at the BBVA internal audit?
Sure, Osman, thank you. I think that has become a strength test for all of us and has made organizations measure their capacity to adapt and to completely uncertain and difficult scenarios without foreseeing that the future could bring a pandemic such as the COVID-19. Over the last decade, BBVA Group has undergone a digital and technological transformation that has allowed the implementation of new ways of working, allowing its employees to balance their work and personal life. Two major milestones that we accomplished without any relation to COVID-19 were the implementation of Agile in the mid-2018 and also remote working at the beginning 1 day per week in the second half of 2019. As you see in this slide, in the case of Agile, we had 5 objectives at the beginning. We implemented for the purpose of being more productive in general, to increase our productivity. What does that mean? It means is to have a better approach to areas, to our auditees. And second one, to have a better global prioritization process. Of course, more quality is the third one. Faster execution of engagements, speed in general is the fourth. And last but not least, finally, having a more engaged team. We go to next slide, because the strive to have the most engaged team of people, we introduced in the second half of 2019 remote working from home. In internal audit, 1 day per week. This combined with another global, these two initiatives that we started previously, Agile for productivity and remote working for.
You are experiencing Agile way of working since the, as you said, year 2018. So can you tell us a little bit about which Agile values have helped to you to cope with the difficulties during this period?
Okay, we can use the slide for, yeah, thank you. There are four key elements that have helped us adapt dynamically to this changing environment. This element is first one at the global level. quarterly prioritization of the global audit plan. The team has focused on the evaluation of new risk derived from COVID-19 in order to anticipate the need for new projects, which have a higher priority. Continuous risk assessment and quarterly prioritization process of the audit plan have both allow fast reallocation of audit teams. Second element is at local level, the empowerment of teams that has allowed within the specific audit engagements for prioritization of audit procedures. We use in Agile terms, we call user stories. Agile values such proactivity and confidence have been fundamental so that each member performs their job. The prioritization has facilitated the focus on the most important user stories in response to the objective of work. The teams work of completing them at closing each sprint. We use a sprint of 2 weeks, and continuously anticipating the relevant blockages, which were promptly escalated and decision made. The third element probably is using digital Kanban boards. In this new situation, the teams were able to rapidly synchronize, helped by the use of a technology. We use Jira, but there is another one that is a tool which replaces the traditional physical boards and which allow us to clearly view the flow of the remote work at a team level, not just individually. And last but not least is communication. Communication is at all times and at all levels indispensable for the adequate performance of the role of internal audit, and even more in critical times like this. We foster a communication in 3 levels, all via teleconference, via WebEx or Google Meet. Within internal audit teams, within all auditors of a country such as Turkey, and among all auditors of our global internal audit team in all the countries, celebrating frequent global events, global demo day quarterly, remote town halls between headquarters and specific country teams, etc. This is for us the key element. And Osman, at this point, I would like to ask you a question, because as you know, during the pandemic confinement, we launched a global Agile implementation internal communication plan, which we believe that has been a success. Could you tell us the key success factors of this plan in Guarantee, please?
Sure. Thank you, Julio. Communication, is at the center of the Agile, I believe. So, Julio, there are many principles of the Agile. Let me show the slides to the audience. Yes. There is no time to talk about these 12 Agile principles, but I highly recommend to all of the audiences that they should read these 12 Agile principles. It is not explained to these principles within this meeting today. Maybe it will be the subject of another meeting anyway. So I would like to point out here that even if you have fully implemented these 12 principles, if the communication side is missing, it is not possible to call it as Agile. More precisely, it is not possible to apply these principles without communication. Therefore, for example, if the concept of the communication is the body of a person, then communication has to be defined as blood that gives a life to that body. Without blood system, as you know, the body cannot move anywhere. And during all of my career, I realized that the lack of communication is one of the root causes of many projects failures, actually. So let's move to another slide, and I can show to all of my colleagues these slides and the values. I believe that in order to achieve success in communication, we need to have 4 habits: transparency, trust, positive thinking, And at last, team spirit. Let me start with the maintenance of transparency. You know, the democratization of the information is an absolute trend today. So therefore, the boost in transparency is very desirable, very attractive. Communication is then multidirectional and collaboration is complex, which is the case in Agile methodology, actually. Large teams are a source of bad communication. The more people there are in a team, the more communication channels they have, and the more difficult it is to interact and share the information among all the members of the team. So for Agile to work best, each team member should have a visibility of what the team is doing, and most importantly, have a clear picture of what the milestones are and how they will be achieved. Not only must they understand what their responsibilities are, but they also have to understand the project, which is the business context and the responsibilities of their colleagues in reaching the milestones. For it to become attainable, it is important to keep an eye open for updates on requirements. Be curious about the project goals and go by the properly composed documentation. The key of transparency is sharing your vision, I believe. Shared purposes and shared visions promote the value creation by Agile. Team members' visionary has to be consistent and conscious in what he or she communicates to other people in the team. This should be done periodically with clear messages. The second habit is trust. You know, successful teams are primarily built on trust, collaborative relationship, and a communication method with ethical values should be preferred instead of, you know, distant relationship. The third one is positive mindset. You know, positive thinking and positive emotions broaden and build our resources and skills, open us up to possibilities. Personal touches to team members will help convey positive thinking. So I highly recommend organizing one-to-one meetings. No matter how effective your daily or weekly calls are, you know, we all make calls, but I believe that teams must be co-located whenever possible. Lack of frequent in-person meeting is a bad practice within the framework of a distributed Agile methodology. And then lastly, I can mention collective soul. The team is not just gathering in an environment, but sharing the environment physically and spiritually. The opinion of every person in team is very important, and everyone in the team should be given to the opportunity in order to express their ideas, their thoughts. When talking about communication, actually, the one point is very important. You have to take care of the cultural differences. At this point, I would like to share a slide with you. You know, in this slide, in this diagram, you can see a diagram. This diagram explains how the linear, multi-active, and reactive communication methods are distributed throughout the communities, throughout the cultures. You know, Julio, unsurprisingly, Turkish and Spanish people are in the multi-active communication category. So, in other words, you know, we are warm and emotional side in the communication. So we have to take care it during the communication. In this period, I would like to also to share with you a communication frequency of different teams in the Guarantee Bank. Maybe this is an example for the audiences and who are searching the real examples. You know, in this graph, the y-axis shows the sequence from the smallest team to the most crowded team. And the x-axis shows the period of the meetings. As you can see, the meetings and the communications tools are almost equally distributed among all the teams, whether they are big or they are small. we have developed a multi-layered short and long-term communication practice during this pandemic period. And this is real, what we have done in Garanti today. So within that way, each and every colleague in our team aware our goals, aware our strategies, and has an idea about our challenges in a very transparent way. Every word, every opinion is very precious to the whole team, actually. So I'm very welcome when I hear the feedbacks about our features and plans. So this is all about your question. I would like to go on with you again, Julio. You know, this outbreak, because of the outbreak and because of the government measures, we faced several problems. Do you think that they caught most of us off guard? I mean, you know, we ready for that? We was prepared and ready for the pandemic period?
Yeah, Osman, we will use next slide to explain. Being as terrible as it is, the COVID pandemic is certainly not the first crisis that BBVA Group and Guarantee Bank, which have 163 and 74 years of history respectively, have experienced and overcome successfully. I think that BBVA is facing this pandemic from a position of strength, probably by 6 main reasons. Let me review quickly. First of all is the recurrence and low volatility of the operation income, which grew 13.5% year over year to 3.09 billion euros. In second, it's our proven capacity to generate capital. As of September, the fully loaded CET1 capital ratio reached 11.52%. This represents a generation of 30 basic points compared to June figures, and now we are in the middle of the pandemic. And third is that BBVA revised its 2020 cost reduction expectation upward in September, while improving its forecast for its cost of risk to a range between 1.5% and 1.6% in cumulative terms. Fourth, we have a comfortable liquidity position above the minimum requirements, relatively low dependence on wholesale markets, and large liquidity buffers in the different geographies in which BBVA operates. Fifth, it's important to talk about our diversified business model. Our growth and profitability profile in the past is the result of our footprint and our position in those different markets. We are present in high growth markets like Turkey, like Mexico, etc. But also we, and even more importantly, we have truly unique franchises in those markets. And last but not least, is the strength of digital capabilities. This crisis has been an accelerator of digitalization. To give some data, between January and September 2020, BBVA grew in 4 million mobile customers, and that is more or less 14%. We reached 32.8 million. That is more or less 57% of the total customers, and is between 58, 59 million customers worldwide. And also the interactions through BBVA's mobile application have increased fivefold compared to last year. All these strengths has been used in previous crises. For example, Just to remember that BBVA has been one of the few European banks that did not post losses in any of the years following the 2008 financial crisis. And also, as you can remember, in the annual stress test of European banks, BBVA has always stood out for the resilience of its results and its capital in the face of potential situations of economic recession. As we commented previously, both the implementation of Agile in one side and remote working in the other side in 2018 and 2019, respectively, become very handy for internal audit when the pandemic started.
Yeah, very impressive. You know, the figures and the numbers are very impressive, actually. Okay, one more question. After this outbreak, what immediate actions did you take first as the internal audit area, meaning?
Okay, we can use the next slide, yes. Just to explain. Thank you, Osman. At the beginning of the pandemic, the internal audit team, as well as the rest of the areas of the BBVA organization, continue to work remotely from their homes, responding this way to the corporate decision of making the first priority the health and safety of all teams and customers, as well, obviously, as business continuity and the preservation of the employment. I would like to share with you our experience in how BBVA internal audit area has adapted to this new environment using Agile methodologies. For the very first moment, around beginning of March, many lines of action were open, which needed immediate attention. First step was to define the support teams, which would score top management through this uncertain and unpredictable crisis management. In the same manner, we center our attention on the re-evaluation of risk, which were starting to be a concern due to the pandemic and their impact in the internal audit plan. Lastly, the necessary mechanisms were put in place to maintain the execution of audit projects, making the necessary adjustments to confront with assurance difficulties and spur of the moment priorities. The coordination and analysis in the decision-making process are key in this crisis environment. The management by BBVA Group was arranged around the corporate that we call war room and the organization of contingency groups in each area. Internal audit organized its own continuity working group, whose members are the chief audit executive and his more direct cooperators. Meeting at the beginning on a daily basis, this group has analyzed the key aspects related to the sanitary impact of the pandemic on the teams, the activities, special contingencies, exceptional work methods, and also communication. As you said previously, probably the most important thing during the crisis. Once a week, the continuity working group met with the internal audit heads of each geography to assess the evolution in each country and in their teams and to hear from them about their problems.
I see. How do you evaluate the success of the measures you have taken? You know, I understood that you took lots of decisions and measures. How do you evaluate that? And lastly, maybe, what's your expectations for the upcoming months?
Yeah, you can use next slide to explain.
Sure.
No?
Sure.
Thank you, Osman. In spite of the pandemic and the challenge it has brought, internal audit BBVA finished the plan of first semester of 2020, even slightly over objectives set, and we plan also to be also over objectives, small over objectives at the end of the year. Additionally, the evaluation of risk assessment has been completed, adding relevant COVID-19 impacts in the audit plan. In some geographies, we are returning gradually to a new normality, slowly, but trying to return. It's a combination of in-person and remote working. And we have defined important challenges and are sure that we still have a long road ahead. We trust that the practice adopted from agility, leveraged with new technologies, allow us to evolve toward a better coordination and resilience of teams in confronting the unexpected, boosting the creative mode and sense of cooperation of the role of internal audit in BBVA.
I see. Well, actually,
at this point, Osman, I would like to ask you what you expect to change in our offices when we return to a normal life after the pandemic. Do you think the post-pandemic period will be a stage where Agile methodology will become more widespread?
Thank you. So I have to believe, I want to believe that one day we will come back to our office in studio. I don't know when, but hopefully, I think before the summer, I hope. Well, I have just prepared a slide for that. You know, it is very certain that after the pandemic, some parts of our life will not be the same as before. It is true. I do not want to say that everything will change, but it is not difficult to predict that there will be lots of changes. For sure, internal audit teams will also be affected. I think the new period will rise above 4 blocks that you can see on the chart. The new roles of the audit, the way of doing business, dynamic planning, and human resources and talent. Let me go on with the talent, okay? So after the pandemic, talent will be much more important. You know, especially talent, especially at the center of this pyramid, because I think it will be the key of the building block. I think there will be a need for managers who take into account the dynamics of the new generation and who manage with the empathy without titles. So manage with empathy, no titles. Meetings are a form of communication that we routinely do. I think it will be desirable to work with the people with self-discipline and self-motivation due to the condition of working remotely in the new period. And of course, you know, as we said, people with high communication skills will be needed more than ever due to these new conditions. And, you know, this new era will turn us to people with varied skills. They call it as polymath people and the purple people. These persons will be the most desired ones to work with. For instance, people who have more than one competence or one core competence or skills and can blend them with the information systems will be very desirable. Julio, you don't know, in the morning session, you know, our colleagues from the global side thought that, you know, data and understanding data will be very important. So the people who have the idea about the information system and who have at least 2 core skills and who can blend it will be very, very valuable, very desirable. And regarding the new roles, the second pillar of the pyramid, I can mention several things on the right-hand side of the slide. As an internal audit, we need to give up annual planning. It is very clear. The ever-changing risk requires continuous risk assessment. Internal audit should go beyond assurance and embrace the role of being an advisor to the company management. In addition to that, after pandemic, a new role will be expected from us. This is the foreseeing of potential risks, prediction of the potential risks. It means not looking back, but looking forward. And this is my last slide. As the third block, I can say that there will be changes in the way of auditing. And it is certain that working remotely will continue to be completely or partially in our lives. It is clear. This situation will make it necessary to use technology. At this point, as I said, data use and data modeling will become very important for internal audit functions. And most probably, I believe that after the year 2025, we will see the artificial intelligence is being used extensively in auditing. Finally, I would like to tell a few words about the dynamic planning on the right-hand side. We, as internal audit professionals, must give up the static approaches. We need to accept that we should respond to the changing risk instantly and use our resources according to the value we create. In addition to that, a quality assurance process is needed, I believe. I think we should understand our shortcomings. You know, sometimes we have to ask ourselves, what is our deficiency? What kind of deficiencies we have? And we have to use these shortcomings as feedbacks. This is in a nutshell, this is the points that I want to emphasize on. And this slide brings me to the end of our conversation, Julio. Now, I think it is time for the questions. I think we have a few minutes for the question and answers. So let me check the questions. So there is one question, very interesting, that I want to ask you, Julio. Nisa Hanım is asking that BBB operates in very different cultures. So how BBB Global Audit Team coped with different tendencies of those different operations, especially responding COVID effects with Agile methodology perspective?
Okay, thank you, Nisan and Osman. It's really true. We operate in different countries with different cultures, but we try to work like real one team with one methodology, and we like to do things in the same way. We have several coaches that help us in each geography to develop in our life cycle the different ceremonies with the same ideas. We try to explain why do every ceremony, which are the objectives, and we review if we obtain the right results. And we have different tools to measure our capabilities, our maturity, etc. And we can share with all of you that more or less in different geographies, we are in the same maturity level and independent of different cultures, trying to work together, trying to share why we are doing things, and trying to share the same methodology with the same agile principles. And this has been, I think, a high success for the internal audit team globally.
Thank you, Julio. There are left a few minutes. There are several questions. One of them is that what should be the main starting point when adopting agile approach?
Yes, the main starting point probably is to have a global reflection in the whole company about if you are ready to adopt and push this plan. This Agile is not a methodology for a small department. I think it's necessary to think about the whole company, because usually it's we can use more Agile in areas that execute projects like internal audit or engineering, etc. But with this philosophy, I think that first of all is to be convinced of all of us will push this transformation, because we need a lot of levers, a lot of cultural levels, a lot of pushing levels, a lot of changes, for example, to train these coaches that help the teams to develop new ways of doing thinking. I think my first recommendation is to have a global reflection in the company and to go with decision to this way.
Thank you, Julio. Another question is about the KPI, I think, about the KPI of auditing. What should be the main KPI of an auditor for the auditor in an organization in new era?
Yeah, yeah. We have a set of KPIs, but and we talk about KPIs because we use key transformation indicators if you are measuring your transformation. And as we have 5 main objectives, we try to define a single KPI for each one. The approach to the audit is based on a survey in the top management. In terms of prioritization, we try to measure the number of audits that the audit partner proposed, and they are analyzed in the quarterly ceremonies to prioritize. And we see if we are able to execute in a quarter the same number of audits, or we need to change in the middle of the quarter some of the audits. This is our KPI for prioritization. And also quality, probably the most difficult one, and it's to measure the quality of our jobs, our execution, our audits. We have our technical forum that from an independent way see all our reports, and also we have some KPIs about compliance with our methodology. And in fourth term, speed, we try to measure how many time we take to send a report to our auditees after finish the work, and we are in near 1 week, very shortly. And last but not least is the engagement of the teams. Here we use the corporate Gallup survey to measure the results. There's the main KPIs. Yeah,
that's true. Julio, thank you very much. Time flies, so we already reached the end of our session actually. So thank you very much for your participation again. Would you like to add anything?
No, it has been a pleasure to share with the audience our experience, and we are open to send more questions across you, Osman, or whatever, sure, in the near future. We are very open. Thank you so much.
So all of my colleagues can write me, and I will try to reply it myself or with Julio. So that's the end of our session. With the last word, I can say that I believe that COVID-19 has provided an unusual opportunity for internal audit professionals in order to transform their traditional approach. This is the right time to change.